Every idea starts with a spark.
Children are being killed right now because of how they look. And this senseless killing happens because of stigma. Stigma is a powerful force in our society. It does not need proof or evidence. It only needs an audience. And stigma finds an easy target in individuals born with cleft lip and palate, a condition that occurs due to failure of the fusion of the lip or the palate, and sometimes both during pregnancy. It occurs in 1 in 700 births worldwide, which makes it the most common craniofacial defect in the world. Its exact causes are unknown, but research shows that genetics and environmental factors play a major role. It is a treatable condition, and it requires a multidisciplinary team of doctors, dentists, speech therapists, and others to help save these children's lives. Oftentimes, they require multiple surgeries throughout their lifetime. However, in communities where access to medical care is limited and where cultural beliefs run deep, cleft is misunderstood and feared and wrapped in dangerous beliefs, where the medical conditions like cleft are described as a punishment or a curse or a bad omen. Because of these beliefs, children born in communities like this are often isolated, abandoned, and sadly, killed. In these communities, mothers with children with cleft wish that their babies were never born. Not because they don't love their children, but because of the fear of stigma. I know that fear. I have experienced the sting of stigma. I was born with severe generalized enamel hypoplasia. In simple words, it is a developmental groove across my teeth. And growing up in Nigeria, no one in my family could explain its origin, especially since I was the only one in the family who had it. As a young girl, it never bothered me. I was fine until primary school, middle school, where for the first time I was made painfully aware of my smile and how my teeth looked different. I was teased and ridiculed and laughed at. Children would come up to me at playground and be like, "Why is your teeth like that?" And before I could even respond sometimes, they would run away and laugh at me. And I would see them point fingers at me and have their hands in front of their mouth, talking and gossiping about me. Slowly, I learned to stop laughing. I learned to smile with my lips closed. I learned to shrink myself, to hide from others the parts of me that drew unnecessary attention, because I was tired of being ridiculed, of answering questions, and explaining myself, of being stared at. It was a very traumatic time. However, years later when I became a dentist and finally understood the science, hypoplasia is harmless. In my case, it happened because my mom was ill during pregnancy. But here's the truth. The trauma did not come from the condition. It came from the meaning that others attached to it. And that is the silent violence of stigma, where a visible difference becomes a sentence of shame, of silence, and exclusion. It is a shocking reality that conditions like cleft lip and palate that are treated in most parts of the world can lead to devastating consequences, like infanticide in some other parts of the world. The difference is not the biology. The difference is the story around it. And that's why my message today is simple and direct. Awareness is the catalyst for change. We know that medicine corrects the cleft. Awareness corrects the misunderstanding or the misconception that a child born with a cleft is cursed. We know how to solve the problem medically, but just as urgently, we must address it culturally through education, compassion, and the power to speak out. You see, a catalyst does not become a part of a reaction or a final product. It accelerates the reaction. Awareness does the same. Awareness speeds up a community's movement from fear to understanding, from abandonment to care, and from silence to action. In many African communities, when a child is born, there is palpable joy, there's celebration. But in this small rural village, a child was born into silence. In that moment, there was confusion, and then fear replaced with love. Believing that the child was cursed, the family abandons the baby. Shortly after, the child was rescued, fostered, provided the necessary surgery, and then given all the help, love and care that they needed. Today, the child is thriving and living a near healthy life. But this is not the happy ending for many children who find themselves in these situations. Before surgery, children with cleft struggle to do the most basic things: to eat, to drink, to socialize, to speak. A child cannot create the suction needed to breastfeed. One may choke while drinking. Others battle multiple infections. Some children are hidden from the public, some never go to school, and some believe that they will never find love, that no one would ever marry them, all because of how they look and sound. These challenges are not inevitable, they are preventable. And awareness is how we do that. In areas where there's proper medical care, a child with a cleft is diagnosed during pregnancy, and treatment is done within the first year of life for a healthy child. However, in communities where there's limited access to care, adults with cleft still exist. Sadly, correcting a cleft does not end the stigma around cleft. A French study found that 69% of children who've had corrective surgery were bullied at schools and at playground. 84% of those children claimed that the bullying was directly related to their surgical scars. And 42% claimed that they were bullied on a daily basis, especially at middle school. Here in the United States, an online survey found that 88% of individuals with craniofacial anomalies had been bullied at one time or the other because of their physical appearance. If this level of cruelty occurs in areas of the world where there is information and access to care, imagine what happens in areas where cleft is totally misunderstood and where superstitious beliefs thrive. This is why awareness matters. It doesn't just repair the face, it changes how the world sees that face. It replaces ridicule with respect and isolation with inclusion. This is not the first time that creating awareness has saved the lives of babies. Many years ago, in some tribes in Nigeria, twin babies were killed at birth because they were believed to be cursed and a source of bad luck to their families. Through community advocacy and sustained awareness campaigns, this deadly belief was challenged and eventually led to the abolishment of the killing of twins. Today, twins in those communities are no longer feared, but celebrated. I believe that the same transformation is possible for children born with cleft. In 2023, I was privileged to be a part of a research group that went to Nigeria to assess the psychological burden of being a caregiver of a child with a cleft. Nothing prepared me for some of the stories that were shared with me. I would like to share one of those with you. It was a story of a mom who was a first-time mom and had a son who was born with a cleft lip and palate. Shortly after his birth, her husband abandoned her. Alone, terrified, and depressed, she didn't know what to do. She didn't know how to feed him or care for him or prevent the infections that he had. And then she started contemplating ending the child's life and even ending hers. Until a kind neighbor who understood her child's condition directed her on how to get help. When I met her and interviewed her, her son already had his surgery. She told me that she didn't even know that a condition like that existed before her child was born, and how the surgery saved her child's life. Awareness didn't just save that child's life, it prevented an unthinkable act. This is not just an African problem, or one that affects others. It's one that affects us all. Because stigma doesn't just happen in distant locations. It happens even among us, in ordinary moments, and often without intention. Stigma comes from myths that we inherit, from fears that we've inherited from people before us or around us. Stigma is learned, and that means it can be unlearned. Stigma happens because we've heard things that we did not dare to question or confirm their authenticity. And so, I would like to do a little reflective test with you tonight. Feel free to join me openly or quietly. Put a finger up if you've ever avoided someone because of how they look or sound. Put a finger up if you've ever assumed someone's abilities based on their appearance. Put a finger up if you stayed silent while someone else was being bullied or challenged. Put a finger up if you've laughed at someone's appearance or speech, even jokingly. Put a finger up if you've judged someone before hearing their story. I'm sure all of us here had one finger or more up. It's not because we're unkind. It's because we're human, and awareness is how we begin to make that shift. If we agree that awareness is the catalyst for change, then here are some recommendations that we can do to improve or eliminate stigma. Choose to be curious over being assumptuous. Use languages and kind words that honor people rather than demean them. Gently challenge stories that are not true and replace them with stories that are true. Support individuals who create awareness for clefts and organizations like Smile Train who go out there to different countries and different villages to help perform surgeries for children with cleft. Practice everyday inclusion. You can do it. And as a community, here are some things that we can do. These are proven tests, by the way, that have worked. The use of TV programs, radio programs in local dialects that explain things like cleft or medical conditions like cleft in languages that people that may never step into a hospital can understand. Employing the use of respected local leaders who can translate medical terminologies into cultural acceptable terms. Outreach programs that combine education and treatment. Trainings for healthcare technologies that are local, who themselves often lack knowledge. And finally, encouraging research that replaces fiction and myths with evidence-based science. And telling stories, true storytelling or storybooks for children so that their knowledge is built from ground and up. I started this talk today with a painful truth that children are being killed because of how they look. I would like to end with something positive and to give you all some responsibility. Because no one should be treated wrongly because of how they look. No child should suffer or die because of how they look. I challenge you to be the catalyst for change by creating awareness. Because awareness doesn't just open doors, it transforms communities. And with children with cleft lip and palate, it saves lives. Thank you.